Okay, I'm going to share the screen. So meantime, please take out your notes. Now, this is not the assignment. I'm going to use yesterday's unfinished assignment as a warm-up. Okay, so but let me open up the chat. Participants. All right. So this is from yesterday's assignment. And again, this is not an assignment, but we're just going to use a couple of questions as a warm-up, okay? So here's a warm-up. Let's do number 2 right now. And I will like you to factor it. So I'll give you 1 minute. Try to remember what we did yesterday, okay? You guys remember what to do? All right, so it's been about a minute. So it's very important that you establish the patterns, the steps, okay? And so if I were looking at this problem, if you haven't quite gotten that process yet, this is what I would think if I look at this problem. First step, I will look at the first term, x squared term. And then I will ask myself, how do I get that x squared? And that is when I distribute. And that's, you get that x squared, and there's only one way, and that is from x times x, right? When you distribute x times x, that's how you get x squared, right? There's no other way. And so it has to be x and x, okay? So that's the first step. Second step is, you're going to skip the middle term, negative 11x, because negative 11x is coming from adding two sources, right? You add some x's, like 5x and 6x or whatever, and then you get the negative 11x. But we don't quite know how you've gotten negative 11x yet. So you're going to skip that, but then you're going to focus on 10, the last term, which is 10. 10 comes from multiplying two numbers, right? This number times this number, and that's how you get 10. So you're asking yourself, what times what gives me 10? And there are two options, right? It's 2 times 5 and 1 times 10. Now, I've told you guys to shoot for the combination first, try with the numbers that are close together, which is, in this case, it's 2 and 5, right? But then maybe some of you are seeing already, now more you do this, have an experience with factoring, you will start to see which option will work better. And some of you might be thinking, well, it's gonna be 1 and 10, but let's say you're gonna try 2 and 5, right? And now, how do we know if this is correct or not? Well, you're going to check with this middle term, negative 11x, by distributing the middle, which is 2x, and then the outside, which is a 5x. And when you add those two terms, 2x and 5x, you should be able to get 11x or negative 11. And it's impossible to get 11 out of 2x and 5x, isn't it? By adding them, okay? And so you know that 2x and 5x will not work, yeah? Very good, Mia. That's right. So we have to, so this 2 and 5 option is not going to work out, but it's going to be 1 and 10. And then it's 1x, you get 10x. Now, how do we get negative 11x? Well, you get negative 11x if both 1x and 10x are negative. So it will be x minus 1, x minus 10. And that works. And the last thing that I want you to check is, well, it does negative 1 times negative 10. Will that give me positive 10? It's important that you check that last step, okay? And then it does, right? Negative times negative is positive. So that will be positive 10. And then x times x will give me x squared. And then negative 1x and negative 10x, that will give me negative 11x. So everything is all accounted for, right? And so let's try another one, okay? Does that make sense? Let's do number 6. So why don't you try that? Why don't you send me a direct message to me if you have the answer for that. Okay, I would like to see it. Is everybody working on this? Right, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, very good. Thank you. Put the time 1 minute, but how are you guys doing? Anybody else? So I'm gonna get started on this. Again, the first step is to focus on the first term, 2x squared. How do you get 2x squared? And there's only one option, that will be 2x and x. Yeah. Now we're gonna skip the middle term. We're gonna focus on negative 9. What will you ask yourself? What times what? Okay. This times this number times this number will give you negative 9. Okay. So that will be, it's either 3 times 3 or 1 times 9, isn't it? Okay. So let's try 3 and 3 first. Okay. So I'm going to do 3 and 3. Now I need to get negative 9 though, right? So would that work? Let's check. Now, how do you check it? You check it by doing the donuts, right? We've been calling donuts. You do inside, which is 3x. Outside is 2x times 3, which is 6x. Can you get positive 3x by adding 3x and 9x? You can, right? If 6x is a positive, if 6x is a positive, 3x is negative, then if you add them together, wouldn't you get positive 3x, right? That means this 3 needs to be negative because negative 3 times x will be negative 3x, right? And then 2x times positive 3, that will get you positive 6x. All right, so this is what we've done yesterday, right? Now we're going to take this one step further. Hang on a second. All right, so we're going to take it further and apply this factoring skill to find x-intercept today, okay? So let's get started on that, okay? So this is 2.2, okay? Finding x-intercept, I guess I should, by factoring, okay? Now I would like you to write this down, okay? Now when we graph the parabola like this right here, you're going to have possibly, okay, you can possibly have two x-intercept, okay? Right here and right here. Those are x-intercepts. And then when the line hits the y-axis, that place is called y-intercept. We're going to try to find those locations today, okay? Now, before we dive into the actual problem, I want you to understand a couple of things about x-intercept and y-intercept that I think is very important, okay? Now, here is a linear function right here, right? Do you guys all see this right here? Now, what is the x-intercept? Now, can somebody tell me the coordinate of this x-intercept? Where is the line crossing on x-axis? What is the coordinate of the x-intercept? Very good. Thank you, Francisco. Anybody else? Yeah, it is -3, 0, isn't it? Yeah. Now here's that. So this is the x-intercept. And the coordinate is -3, 0. Now, I know this may be a vague question, but what observation can you make about that, about x-intercept? Is there any general, the observation that you can make, or, well, particularly on y coordinate of the x-intercept? Now, what is the y? Well, let me be more specific here. What is the y coordinate of the x-intercept in this case? It's a 0, right? Y coordinate is this number right here. This is the x coordinate, and this is the y coordinate. Now, let's say if the line is crossing over here, what is the y coordinate? Isn't y coordinate again is 0? What I'm getting is that when you are finding x-intercept, y coordinate is always 0. Would you agree with that? For any x intercept, y coordinate is always 0. Would you agree with that? Now for this y-intercept right here, that's y-intercept. What is the coordinate, by the way, for this y-intercept right here? Isn't that 0, 2 in this case? And what, you see what I'm getting at? Do you notice that x coordinate, x coordinate, x coordinate of y-intercept is always 0. And then for x-intercept, y-coordinate is always 0. It's pretty obvious, I guess, right? Hopefully. But this is a really important to remember, okay? Because I'm going to ask you this, and you need to remember this. You will use this over and over, even after Algebra 2. Maybe you guys are going to take, what is it, college algebra maybe next year. Maybe you will be taking, I don't know, pre-calc. They will ask you, your teacher, your professor, or the teachers will ask you, how do you find the x-intercept? So here it is. I want you to write this down, and I want you to memorize this. How do you find the x-intercept? You're going to set y equal to 0. And then you're going to solve for x. Why do you set y equal to 0 when you want to find x-intercept? Because y coordinate is always 0 when you have x-intercept. So you're going to set y to 0. And likewise, when I ask you, how do you find y-intercept? What are you going to tell me? You're going to say, you're going to set x to 0. Because y-intercept has x coordinate always 0. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's what we are exactly going to do. Okay. Right. Does anybody need time to copy this down? I hope you have this in your notes. I know I made a mess a little bit. Let's clean this up a little bit here. Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay, I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna scoot down, scoot up. Okay, so let's see. Let's do an actual problem here. So over here we've got parabola. Okay. And it's got 2x-intercept. It's crossing somewhere, right? I don't know where it is, but I want you to find x and y-intercept. Okay. Don't worry about the Desmo.com. We'll talk about that. Okay. All right. So, you guys ready? let's find x-intercept. So let's write it down. We are finding x-intercept. Now, finding y-intercept is going to be very, very easy, but let's place our focus on x-intercept first. Okay. Now, how do you find x-intercept? Everybody tell me. Just speak out loud. You don't have to unmute. Just say it. How do you find x-intercept? All right. Did anybody say it? You're going to set y equal to 0. You're going to set y equal to 0. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set y, which is right here, to 0. So 0 equals x squared minus 2x minus 8. Okay? So that's a first step. Okay? Next, what we're going to do is we're going to factor this. Now, you've been working on this, right? We've been working since yesterday of a factoring. So let's factor that. So second step is that we factor. So let me give you 1 minute to do that, okay? Did you guys get it? Let's give a little space here. First, it has to be x and x, right? And then, so you look at this, that's x and x. And then you're going to look at negative 8. What times what gives negative 8? It's going to be 2 times 4, right? And one of them has to be negative. So I'm going to put 2 and 4. And then that's 2x. That's 4x. And we want to get negative 2x. So how do we get negative 2x? By making 4x as a negative, 2x as a positive, isn't it? So it's going to be x plus 2, x minus 4. Is everybody okay on that? So now you factored it, right? Now we're not quite done. We are finding x-intercept, right? Now, next step is this. You're going to ask yourself, okay, what is it? You're solving for x, right? You're going to, okay, again, to find x-intercept, you're going to set y equal to 0, and then you have to solve for x, okay? Now, we haven't quite solved yet, okay? To solve for x, you're going to ask yourself what you can insert for x that will be equal to 0, okay? What can you put into this x that will make it equal to 0? It's kind of like this. You have x plus 5 equals 0. What would x be? Well, isn't it negative 5? Okay? Isn't negative 5 plus 5 0? Right? So just same way, what can you put into that x that will make it equal to 0? Well, isn't it negative 2? Because negative 2 plus 2 will be 0. And then 0 times anything is 0. So you just found the other one solution. X is negative 2. But for the same reason, you can also think of this, the second parentheses, and you can insert positive 4 right here, isn't it? Because positive 4 minus 4 it's a 0, isn't it? And then 0 times anything is going to be 0. So you have two solutions. It's negative 2 and positive 4. Yeah, very good, Madeline. So you just found two x-intercepts, which are, you can just, that will be enough, okay? That will be the solutions, right? Or more, uh, if you want to present in a coordinate, it will be negative 2, 0 and 4, 0. So there are two solutions. Okay. Does that make sense? The flow of the problem, how you find x-intercept? Okay, next. We also need to find y-intercept as well. That is going to be, it will take only 2 seconds to find that. Okay. Now, how do you find y-intercept? Everybody tell me, say it out loud. How do you find y-intercept? You're going to, so look into your notes. What does it say? Because I'm going to keep asking you guys the same question. Okay, so read it out loud. Okay, you don't have to unmute. To find y-intercept right here, you're going to reset x to 0, and then you're going to solve for y. So we're going to set x to 0. So let's do that. You're going to turn all x's to 0. You've got y equals 0 squared minus 2 times 0 minus 8. Now, what's a 0 squared? That's a 0. What's negative 2 times 0? That's a 0. So what do you have? Just gonna get y equals negative 8. Or 0, negative 8. That will be the y-intercept. In other words, it's gonna be, y-intercept is always gonna be that last number, isn't it? That negative minus 8 in this case. That's gonna be y-intercept. Because x will become 0. 2 times 0, negative 2 times 0 is 0. So you're left with a negative 8. Yeah, does that make sense? Okay, let's try another one. Yeah. You guys with me? Does anybody need to write any of these down? Example 1. Okay, I'm going to scoot up, scoot down, scoot up, scoot down. Example 2. X-intercept, y-intercept. So again, you probably know what y-intercept is, but let's focus on x-intercept. I'm going to let you work on it by yourself. At least up to the point where you can factor. Can you do that? 1 minute. Okay. Okay. How are you guys doing? Any questions? Okay, so I'm going to get started on that. I'm going to set y to 0. Set. You don't have to write this part, but that's what you're doing, right? You're going to set y to 0. And then you're going to, the next step is you're going to factor. I'll just leave a little space. And then it's going to be 2x and x. And then the 7, so that's that. 7 will be 1 times 7, isn't it? That's the only possibility. So I'm going to put 1 and 7. Would that give me 1x, 14x? Hey, that's 15x, right? So it all fits, okay? So it's 1 and 7, and both of them are going to be positive. So that's it, okay? Now, next, we're going to solve it, right? Now, here is another way of thinking about this, okay? To solve it, what you want to do is, now for the previous question, it was pretty straightforward, right? Your answer is going to be basically the opposite of the number, because -2 plus 2 will be 0, or +4 minus 4 will be 0. So it will be basically the opposite number, isn't it? However, if you have a little more complicated expression like 2x plus 1, what you want to do is you want to set that each parentheses equal to 0 and then solve it. Okay. What I mean by that is you're going to set 2x plus 1 equal to 0. Okay. And then you're going to solve that by subtracting 1, you get 2x equals -1. And then divide by 2 and divide by 2. So x is -1/2. Yes, that makes sense because 2 times -1/2 is -1. So now -1 plus 1 is 0, isn't it? And then for the other one, it's going to be, the answer will be -7. It's just the opposite number. But again, you can do that by setting x plus 7 equal to 0. And then if you subtract 7, x equals -7. So here it is. You found the x-intercept. They are -1/2, 0, and -7, 0. Okay. You guys with me? Now, how about y-intercept? Y-intercept, you're going to set x to 0. So if you do that, now I'm writing this down because this is the second time in class, but you can just say y equals 7. Okay, that's enough. You don't have to show it to me. But this is what's happening. 2 times 0 squared plus 15 times 0 plus 7. And that becomes 0. 15 times 0 is 0. So you have y equals 7, which is 0, 7. There's one more thing that I want to do. Okay. And then let's graph this. Let's sketch. We just found that x-intercept is negative 1/2 0, which is go right here, right? And then we said that another x-intercept is negative 7, which is right here. And then we also said y-intercept is 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what's happening here is we've got parabola. Okay, it's not very accurate. So we've got parabola like that. Okay. Now let me show you. I don't know if you have any, does anybody have a graphing calculator like this? You don't have to have one, by the way, but let me show you. You can graph this. 2x squared plus 15x plus 7. So you can type it in, the equation, and then you can press graph. Now we need to increase the so here it is. We've got x-intercept at negative 0.5, and then another x-intercept is negative 7, and then the y-intercept is up here at positive 7. So if you have a graphing calculator, you can confirm your solution by just graphing it. Okay. We'll spend a little more time using graphing calculator. There is a online version of a graphing calculator from Dismal. I don't know if anybody have done that before, but I will teach. I'll take some time later, but not today, to show you how to graph it. Okay. All right. Let's just skip example 3. Let's just do the assignment here. I've got 5 problems today, and I want to do all of them today. Okay. So here's the assignment. Assignment 2.2. And let's get started. Got about 40 minutes left. I think we can finish it. Now, if you feel comfortable figuring out how to do this, you don't have to wait for me. Just keep going on your own. But as we finish each problem, please stop for a moment to check your answer, okay? So number 1, let's find x-intercept. Did I tell you guys that we've got spring break coming up in 3 weeks? Yeah, it's kind of nice. Also, I haven't heard anything about making up for snow, the ice storm that we've had. Usually district will make us make up for those lost time. But I don't know. All right. How are you guys doing on number one? Okay, to find x-intercept, you're going to set y to 0, and then you're going to, I'm just going to dive right into the factoring, okay? This one has to be x and x. 27 is what? 3 times 9? And then you know that 3 and 9 will make it negative 12, can you? Right? I mean, there are other options. What other? I guess that's it, right? 3 times 9 and 1 times 27. But definitely we should try 3 and 9 because that's 3x, that's 9x, and then if both of them are negative, isn't that negative 12x, right? And that's what we have right here. So that means both of them, 3 and 9, needs to be negative. Yeah. So we're not quite done. So what's the solution? What's the x-intercept? You set each parentheses equal to 0. You've got x minus 3 equals to 0. And so if you add 3 on both sides, x equals 3. In other words, it's just going to be the opposite number, isn't it? It's going to be x equals 3 and x equals 9. And that's it. So the x-intercept is 3, 0, and 9, 0. So x-intercept. Did you get that? How about the y-intercept? Y-intercept, you're going to set x to 0, right? And if you set all x to 0, what happens? What is y-intercept? Y-intercept is going to be, it's going to be 27 or 0, 27. Okay. Is everybody okay on that? Okay, number 2. Okay, let's factor it. So I'm going to let you work on that by yourself first. Does anybody have a question? I don't know, I'm hoping that you're participating right now, but if at any point, if you have any questions, please let me know, okay? In some way, this chat, I hope that it makes it a little bit easier for you to ask questions, okay? I'm hoping that's the case. You don't have to raise your hand, right? If you're in the classroom, everybody's attention will go to you if you raise your hand, right? And you don't want that. But when you're using this chat, you can just send the question directly to me. Nobody's gonna know what you're asking, what you're saying. I don't. It's not gonna be showing up on video recording either. Okay. I think the video recording, only my face on the corner of the video screen will just show up. I don't think the chat, no, the chat is not going to show up. So please feel free to ask questions. Okay, so for number 2, again, it's going to be x and x. And then negative 12 will be what? 3 times 4? Let's try 3 and 4. Then that's a 3x, and that's 4x. And then we want to create negative, the middle term is negative 1x. How do we create negative 1x? By adding 4x and 3x. We need to make 4x as a negative, 3x as a positive, isn't it? Then if you add them, wouldn't you get negative 1x if you add them together? So negative 4, positive 3. Okay. Is everybody doing okay? Now, so what is the x-intercept? X-intercept is going to be, it's going to be negative 3 and positive 4. Or negative 3, 0, 4, 0. How are you guys doing on that? Did you get that? And then the y-intercept is going to be, it's just going to be that last number. It's that negative 12, isn't it? So it's y equals negative 12. Or 0, negative 12. That's it. That's number 2. How did you guys do? Yeah. Okay, number 3. It's a little more challenging factoring. So I'll let you work on that first, okay? Keep going, guys. You don't have to wait for me. There are only 5 problems. Yeah, only 5. Oh, sorry. So I keep yawning. How are you guys doing on this? Number 3. So it's gotta be 2x and x, right? To get that 2x squared. You're gonna skip the middle term. Focus on the last number, negative 21. What times what gives you 21? Let's not even think about the negative number, but just 21. What times what is 21? That's a 3 times 7, right? And that's the only possibility. The other possibility is 1 and 21. But let's try 3 and 7. 3 and 7. Yeah, I think that would work, right? So you get 3x. It's important that you do. I don't know if you feel silly doing this. The donut, I've been calling like donuts, and it's kind of silly, right? But it really works, and you really need to take care of the signs. Okay, 2x times 7 is a 14x. You want to create positive 11x, and how do you do that? Out of 14x and 3x by adding them. If you add straight, you're going to get 17x. You don't want 17x. You want to get 11x. How do we do that? If we make 3x as a negative, but 14x as a positive, then that will give you positive 11x, doesn't it? Okay. That means 3 has to take the negative sign, and then 7 has to be positive, not the other way around. Okay, other way around will not work. You're going to get negative 11x. You don't want that. Okay, so you need to take care of the sign correctly. Okay. Now, I'm going to erase that. Now we're not quite done yet. So we are going to set each parentheses equal to 0, right? So we're going to set 2x minus 3 equal to 0. And then then you're going to solve for x by adding 3. So you get 2x equals 3. Divide by 2. So x equals 3 over 2, or 1.5. Well, should I just put 1.5? Okay. And then the other one is, it's just going to be negative 7. X equals negative 7. So the two coordinates are going to be 1.50, negative 7, 0. And then y-intercept is going to be negative 21, or 0, negative 20. How did you guys do on that? Number 3. This is where I will be walking around in classroom and checking your notebook and see how you're doing. And I hope you're doing okay. Again, please let me know if you have any questions, even if you don't know what to ask, where you're stuck. If you just say, I don't get it. Just, I need to know. I need to see how you're doing. Okay, number 4. Yeah, you doing okay? Very good, Gentry. Anybody else? Wish I could more have a time to talk to you guys. Okay, very good. Just looking at participants. Yeah. Doing okay? All right, number 4. think this one will be a little bit easier. It's going to be x and x. And then how do you get -4? Okay, that's 2 times 2, right? 2 times 2 will be 4. But do you guys already see that 2 and 2 is not going to work out? Yeah. Again, this is what I mean by, experience. More and more you do this, you're going to start to see what's going to happen for each choice you make. Like, well, 2 and 2, that's 2x, that's 2x. But I want to create -3x. And it's impossible to do 2x and 2x and get 3x by adding them. You can get 4x, you can get 0x, but not -3x. So 2 and 2 is not going to work out. So what's the other choice? If 2 times 2 does not work, then what is it? It's going to be 1 times 4, isn't it? Okay. Yeah, very good, Kimberly. Thank you. Yeah. So that's 1x, and that's a 4x. And can't you create -3x by adding them? You always add the two terms, the donuts. And which one needs to be negative? Yeah, 4 being negative, right? Very good. So 4 needs to be negative. 1 needs to be positive. And then you will get -3x. So the answer in this case is going to be x equals, it's just the opposite number, okay? It will be -1 and +4. That will be the x-intercept. Or -1, 0, 4, 0. Okay, so these are x-intercepts. And the y-intercept is going to be always that last number, -4. So y-intercept is -4. Or if you express that in coordinate, it will be 0, -4. Okay? X coordinate is a 0 for y-intercept. Okay, last question, guys. Almost done. Has anybody already finished? Finished with number 5? Yeah, very good. So in terms of factoring, this might be the hardest one. Well, maybe not hard. I don't know. So first, how do you get 4? That's 2 times 2 or 1 times 4. So I'm going to try with a 2 and 2 first. Would that work? No, it wouldn't work. I know this already. Yeah, this is 2x. That's a 6x. Can you create 11? Can you create -11 out of 2x and 6x by adding them? The highest that you can go is 8x, isn't it? You can't get to -11. And even if you switch 2 and 2, it's still the same thing. So no reason to switch around because it's just 2 and 2 and 2 and 2. So 2 and 2 is not going to work out. So I'm going to do 1 and 4. Now I think we are going to get 11. 1x, 12x. Can't you create negative 11? How do you create negative 11? If 12 is negative, 1x is positive, then if you add them together, that would be negative 11x. Yeah. And then that means 4 needs to be negative, 1 needs to be positive. Yeah. Is everybody okay on that? So now we set, because there is the number, the 3 in front of x, you want to set it equal to 0. 3x plus 1 equals to 0. And then you're going to solve it. Subtract 1, divide by 3, yeah? So if you subtract 1, and then divide by 3, divide by 3, so it's going to be x equals negative 1/3. And for this one, x equals positive 4. Because there is no number in front of x. Or I should say that the number is 1. It's 1x, right? So in that case, it's going to be just opposite number. So the answer will be negative 1/3, 0, and 4, 0. And the y-intercept is negative 4. How do you guys feel? Yeah? I know I hear from about the same people, which is great. Okay. I'm glad you're sharing your thoughts and ideas. How is everybody else doing? Hey, Annette, Crystal, Gail, Gerardo. Are you guys doing okay? Janeth, Kaden. I hope I can just meet you in person someday and get to know a little bit better. But please let me know, okay, if you have any questions, okay? So this is all I have for today. Thank you guys for your participation. Please make sure you take a picture of this and then submit in Canvas before you do anything else. Okay, please do that right away, right now. Okay, and then I will see you guys tomorrow. Okay, take care, guys. Have a great day. Yeah, thank you, guys.